You're listening to the ESO Network, your station for all things geek.
Hi, I'm Joe Heath.
I'm Toni Heath.
And this is the Watch-A-Thon of Rassilon.
You always say that and then look at me and I panic.
Yeah, you need to think of some little stingers.
And here's a bit.
Woo!
That's what I should do.
Yep.
Okay.
You could just say cue the theme song or something.
Okay. Cue the theme song or something.
Thanks.
That was great. I feel good about that.
Today we're going to be talking about the fourth serial of the 21st season of Doctor Who, Resurrection of the Daleks, which consists of 2 episodes that aired from February 8th, 1984 to February 15th, 1984, and was actually filmed as 4 episodes that they moved around because of the Olympics
Joe,
and combined them into 2 episodes.
You were so betrayed.
Yeah, it's 2 double-length episodes. I thought we were getting a nice 2-parter, but no, it's a fake 2-part. It's a secret 4-parter.
Joe keeps track of, he's a spreadsheets guy, and so he keeps track of what's coming up and how long it's gonna take us. And so he was like, yeah, we have this one coming up, we're gonna blow through it because it's a 2-parter. And I think it was Christine who had to be like, oh no.
Yeah.
That is incorrect.
It made me a little sad, but it's alright.
True facts!
I also want to give a special shout out to Matt Golden for sponsoring this episode.
Hey, thanks, Matt.
Golden!
You can check him out at matthewgolden.net. And joining us today, we have 2 returning guests. First off, we have I want to call her our Davros expert because she's been on every Davros episode so far, and this is a Davros episode. It's Layne, Lexx, Terminate, Henderson.
Hey guys, glad to be here.
Hello, how are you doing?
I'm pretty good. How are you?
Doing all right.
It's whatever.
Yeah, that's 2020.
It is 2020. I'm doing as well as I can be.
That's all you can do. And we also have our Ice Warrior expert, so I'm not sure why he's here. It's Ashley Raburn.
Woo!
Hey guys, how's it going?
Hello.
Hello, it's going pretty good. How's it going with you?
Good. As already said, it's 2020, but there you go.
I've been telling people I'm as good as makes sense.
Yeah, that's good. Before we get started, did you guys know that this was a 4-parter?
I didn't know it was a 4-parter. I did look to see that there were 45-minute episodes, though.
Yeah, so this is a trend that they started doing around this time also. So there are other 45-minute episodes, stories also. I actually didn't know about the Olympics thing. That makes a lot of sense. But they did this, even towards the end of the series, a few years later, they would do this format.
I believe all of next season is 45-minute episodes, I think.
Yeah.
Do you know what's funny is you were reading that thing about the Olympics because I knew that they had switched to this format, and I was like, I wonder if it was because of this episode. It did really well, and they were because watching it, it's paced really well and it feels right. And you were looking it up, and that's not the case.
No, yeah, they were already planning on doing the next season as 45-minute episodes. They just happened to need to do it on this one as well, and it did do well. So, though, because I think it was sort of a last-minute decision to make it a 2-parter instead of a 4-parter, because they just took the credits for episode 1 of what would have been episode 1 of a 4-parter. They put that at the end of episode 1 of the 2-parter, and there was a character who gets introduced in what would have been part 2, who doesn't get a credit in that episode because the 4-parter became a 2-parter. So
he's uncredited.
He's uncredited in the first episode.
Oh no!
Oh, poor guy.
I'll let you guys know when the cliffhangers would have happened.
Ooh, okay.
I think it was actually released on DVD and VHS as a 4-parter sometimes as well. So
the thing with me is that all of these stories, this one, any from the Tom Baker era, Third Doctor era, Sixth Doctor era, I watched these all on PBS. originally, so I saw them all as one big thing. So even to this day, episodes and cliffhangers is something that I've been experiencing it that way for well over a decade, 2 decades with VHS and DVD and things like that, 3 decades really. So it's weird for me to think about that because I still think of them in that like PBS, what they call the movie form. So 45 minutes, 25 minutes, 2 hours. All I know is that I would watch them on Saturday night, and it would be one big thing, right? So there wouldn't be the credits. So you only got, actually in those, you only got the credits at the end, which probably might just be the credits for episode 4. I've never really thought about that.
Oh man, I bet a bunch of people were getting left out.
Yeah.
So that's kind of like the way I grew up watching Doctor Who, was in that movie format.
Do you know what's interesting is like on Retro is we actually end up airing it both ways. And I think this has changed now, but when we originally got them, we were running like the movie edits on the weekend and then episodes during the week. We have like notes from the person who edited them for PBS. Because like we didn't have those edits. Somebody like went in and re-edited them. But like the guy who edited them for PBS, and it's just like a dude. He like sent, well, not us, I wasn't there at the time, but like sent all his notes with like time codes and stuff.
Oh, I mean, you also had to like cut for like commercial.
Yeah.
Which the original episodes, I don't believe, had commercial breaks. So
actually airing these on TV today is kind of like a fascinating process.
That's pretty neat to know that you've got those notes from them.
Yeah, this was before my time, but Matt Golden has talked about it before,
right?
On I think when we were on panels or something.
And it's been kind of weird to like because like when I was working there, it was kind of weird to like schedule certain things because the show is so inconsistent.
Right.
Like serials are 4 episodes, 2 episodes, 10 episodes. And also, sometimes they're 45 minutes long instead of a half hour. So it's sometimes difficult to keep things to a certain... like.
It's a slight programming nightmare.
Yeah. Because they're like, why can't we just do a whole serial in 1 week? And it's like, because sometimes they're short and sometimes they're long.
Yeah. That actually was recently a kerfuffle at work.
If you think about it, like on PBS, they didn't really have a time because the when I watched it, the night ended with Doctor Who, right? I watched it on GPTV back when they aired it in the 80s and early 90s. Literally, Doctor Who went off, and then like you watched the whole episode and went through all the credits, and then the 12 hours of Ray Charles singing Georgia began. And that was basically their night programming, was just like shots of Georgia set to Ray Charles's Georgia. So the scheduling didn't matter if it went 2 hours or 3 hours or 4 hours in some cases. It didn't matter because they just ended the night on that, right? So it wasn't an issue of programming. They know it started at 10 o'clock and it ended when Doctor Who ended.
That's neat. TV doesn't work like that anymore.
No, and my guess is even PBS doesn't work that way anymore. It's all automated, right? So
I mean, you definitely reach a certain point of the night where your like programming is over and you just switch over to infomercials, and that's always a relief when you're. This is not interesting. That's always a relief for me when I was working like Master Control, and then you would have sports. Sports always made everything run over, and you would get off schedule, and then you're like, just gotta. Once I hit infomercials, it doesn't matter when I join the infomercials, I'll be back on track, and then the schedule will be fine.
Huh. Never thought about that before.
Yeah, don't leave any of this in the podcast, please.
No, it's fascinating.
I think it's neat.
Yeah, my background's in broadcasting, so academically, this is very interesting to me.
If you don't like it, listen to a different podcast.
No.
No, don't. Please keep listening to us. We need the numbers. So let's cut off this nerdy nonsense. And let's dive into a different type of nerdy nonsense. Let's talk about Doctor Who. Resurrection of the Daleks, episode 1 of 2 or 4. Which I have called Agent of the Daleks.
Well, that question.
Yeah.
Do you have 2 or 4 episode titles?
I only have 2 episode titles. I
Lazy.
didn't. Yeah. If this was a 4-parter, this Agent of the Daleks episode title would go to episode 2, not 1.
Okay.
Because it wouldn't make sense for episode 1. And I would call this one, Hey, episode 1. I don't know. The resurrection of 2-parters. I don't know. I can't. You put me on the spot, and I'm bad at improv.
I Nice try.
Yeah, maybe just move on.
Yeah, that's a good idea. I like how this serial starts, which is it feels like we're starting in the middle of something.
It's just, yeah, you just have to figure it out because the serial is going.
There's like a guy in an alleyway smoking a cigarette, or making a cigarette to smoke, and then a bunch of people in like futuristic outfits just burst out of this warehouse and are running around, and some policemen are following, shooting at them, and they shoot everybody. I believe they even shoot the man smoking a cigarette.
Yeah.
Rude. He's just an innocent bystander. And then the bodies glow pink and then disappear, and so does one of the cops as well. And I was like, okay.
It's not only does it like start in the middle, but it's so jarring because you're like, when and where are we? Because it's a little anachronistic wherever it is.
We will later find out we're in 1984, present day Earth, but these people are not present day, obviously.
I was going to say, the one thing I noticed about this scene is that the camera's really shaky, and not in a good way.
It is very handheld.
Like, it's very handheld. Like, there's nothing there with it. Someone was actually holding a camera. Like, I was looking at it, I'm thinking, to modern standards, you would never see that. You would see the handheld, you think Firefly and kind of Westerns and things like that, but this was like, man, there was no stabilization or anything. It's just like, you're expecting the guy to trip or something. Like it's really, like, jittery, and I think going back to a discussion about television production and stuff, but that would never go now. That they would never allow that on TV. And as I was watching that really jarred me in that very first scene.
I think even given that, there's a part of me that was just excited to see them moving the camera.
Yeah. They're definitely doing something they don't do a lot.
Yeah.
It's also on location, which is nice too. You can tell it's on location because it's film. But two of the men in futuristic outfits, Galloway and Stein, have hidden in a doorway, and they're okay. They don't get shot. They're not dead. One of them has a stutter, and the other one's kind of a jerk. Or maybe they're both jerks, and we just don't know it yet. But anyway, the police officer, the main police officer guy that disappeared in the pink glow, appears on a ship somewhere, and he's very mad about how poorly that whole opening scene went. He's like, the camera was shaky, and everyone was using these guns. Next time we should use stun lasers. But they're like, we had to use the guns because it's period accurate. We don't want to, like, call attention to ourselves. So, did I say this guy's name yet?
I don't believe so.
Lytton. Lytton?
It's Lytton.
Lytton?
Yeah.
Okay, I've heard he comes back on this show.
Yeah.
So
Like that character?
That character,
yeah.
yes.
I'm actually a big fan of this character. I really like that's you asked why I'm here and not on an Ice Warrior episode. It's Lytton.
You're the Lytton expert.
Lytton is the reason that I am on this episode. I love this character. It's a rare thing that they do with him in classic Doctor Who. You see it in future Doctor Who, but he's kind of like a precursor to Captain Jack. The way they set him, maybe not in this episode, but they kind of set him up in a way that he could have been that.
That's interesting. Like a bad Captain Jack?
Morally gray, maybe?
More morally gray?
Yeah. You don't get a true sense of, without spoiling things, you don't get a true sense of Lytton in this story.
Okay. I mean, he does kill an awful lot of people.
Yeah.
To be fair, just so many people die in this one.
Pretty much everyone.
Pretty much everyone, yeah.
Just this once, everybody dies. But we cut to the TARDIS, and we are picking up from the cliffhanger from the last serial. It's kind of rare that we get like I feel like we've gotten cliffhangers in like the end of serials. Usually, I mean, there's like a little connective tissue. It's usually at the beginning of the episode. They're like, "Hey, remember that thing we did last time?" But this time, it's like literally picking up from
There's something to be resolved.
Yeah, which is that they're being dragged down by something. They're being dragged down by a time corridor, which I didn't fully understand until I cleaned up my notes. Actually, probably around episode 2, I fully figured out, it's like a thing. It's like a teleportation type doohickey plot device.
It's a corridor between
time. Oh. Maybe I'm only fully getting it now.
Good job.
And basically, they spend a good chunk of time just trying to break free from it or stop being dragged down. Meanwhile, Stein...
Some very intense acting, throwing themselves around on the floor and such.
camera tilting.
Yeah.
And falling on the floor. Yeah. There's a lot of that this serial. But meanwhile, Stein and Galloway are wandering around in the warehouse, and Stein is complaining, saying that he's in no condition for this sort of thing. And Galloway says, "You're pathetic." And he says, "That's who."
You, like, immediately...
And I immediately was like, I like this guy. This episode put me in his sympathy, like, immediately. And then it betrayed me. But yeah, I like Stein a lot. He's got... Does he only have one earring, or does he have two?
I think just one.
Just one?
He does have just one earring, by the way, because I noticed that 80s earring in his ear.
He looks familiar, but I don't...
Like somebody.
Yeah.
But I don't know who.
I'm imagining he's somebody in the UK, probably. Yeah. No, I mean famous, not just a person.
I imagine he is somebody in the UK, yes.
But yeah, he's adorable. He's got a stutter, and he's like, I'm pathetic, and I don't know why, but I like that in a character. But they're looking for the time corridor, and then they hear a noise, and Galloway's like, maybe it's just a rodent. And then we hear it again, and Stein's like, wearing combat boots? And I thought that was a good line too. There's a lot of good dialogue in this serial. And then they split up, and Galloway gets shot by one of the police officers, and who disappears after killing him. Lytton, meanwhile, has changed out of his police uniform and is now wearing
a great bird hat.
Yeah, he just comes to a peak over his nose. There's a lot of good headwear in this episode. This is the first of many good helmets.
Many good hats.
But they're going to attack a ship. And then we go to that ship, and we meet Mercer and Stiles. Mercer is basically the new guy on the ship. He's being put in charge of something or other. I don't even fully remember. And Stiles has been there for a while and thinks Mercer is very naive and dumb. But she's basically wanting to get promoted off this ship because she's like, kind of sucks here. Like, the whole ship's falling apart. They mentioned having a prisoner, so it's a prison ship. I think they only have the one.
Yes.
But it's like she's kicking doors to get them to open. There's just, like, tubes dangling from the ceiling. And I was also very happy to see, like, Mercer, and there's some other characters on this ship. We get a lot more POC characters, which is nice. And they don't die first, but they do die.
Everyone dies.
Everyone dies,
It does seem to me like it was definitely, like, an intentional choice that somebody made.
And I really like Stiles, too. She's very sarcastic and funny. She's got a lot of good lines. Then they spot the ship coming for them, because they're like, basically it's pretty boring here. There's not a lot of exciting things happening. And then, like, hey, there's a battle cruiser coming for us.
They also make a point, I think, to say that, like, among the things that are broken and falling apart are, like, all of their defenses.
It's not great. Then the TARDIS lands in 1984, and the Doctor is very excited about it, and Tegan is not. She says she is not impressed with crumbling brickwork.
This is a cute scene. The Doctor kind of grabs her arm and is, like, pointing at the building and I assume, because it kind of...
The audio fades out?
The audio fades out, but you can assume that he's, like, trying to get her to be excited, and she's just like, no.
I feel like Tegan's kind of a downer for this whole episode.
Turlo is a little bit, too. There's a good portion of in the last episode where Tegan is trying to do things and get things done, and Turlo's just like, meh.
Why even bother?
I don't want to do it. Why we gotta do it?
Which, to be fair, is completely consistent for Turlo. That's just who he is as a person.
But the prison ship gets attacked. Mercer sort of takes charge. He's like, send everybody over to here, do this, do that. And the ship docks with them. And he's like, we're gonna go, like, they've, like, fortified an area, and they're, like, gonna go confront them. And he tells one of the other crew people, I think her name's Osborne, if we're boarded, destroy the prisoner. And then she, like, very dramatically looks at a big red button. The destroy the prisoner button.
Sure, it's gotta be a big red button.
Definitely. The Doctor and Tegan and Turlo are going into this warehouse building, and they bump into Stein, who is passing out, and he sort of, like, somewhat fills them in on what's going on a little bit. And he's like, don't go in there. It's bad. People die. Don't do it. But he's like, but no, I want to go and check out and find that corridor, because that's what they're looking for, is the time corridor. I was thinking we were going to get Daleks at the end of the episode, because that's how Doctor Who episodes work. is you don't see the Daleks until the end of an episode.
Was this have been the
This
end
would
of an
not have
episode?
been the cliffhanger either.
Oh, wow.
But the people on the prison ship are all like hunkered down behind some boxes and stuff, and the Daleks just burst through and start shooting and stuff. Oh, and also the prison ship people have, speaking of cool headwear, they have these really cool helmets. They're like see-through and thin, and they like sort of slide over their head. I don't know. They're very cool. They like frame the face nicely.
Yeah.
They're gas masks, right?
Yeah.
Oh, yes, they're gas masks. Why aren't they wearing them? They put them on top of their head, and they don't put them down until later.
Right.
But some of them put them down too late.
The way from a storytelling point of view, when they show that, they grab those, right? I mean, because they make a point to show them grabbing these masks off the wall or whatever, wherever they are. That's like a really good like foreshadowing. They're like, look, we need these weird gas masks because we're in the middle of a biological war. I mean, there's a lot that kind of is told in that. The fact that they have that headwear, right? They were expecting that.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, they don't get gassed quite yet. They first blow up a couple of Daleks. We get the little squishy,
I love seeing the squid guy inside.
and they're just dying and oozing, and it's gross. And then the rest of the Daleks retreat, and then that's when Layne is like, you Daleks suck at this. Let me take charge. Let me do my thing. And the Daleks are kind of like grumpy about it, but let him do what he's going to do, because I guess they've teamed up with him to help, so that he can help them get Davros,
Because basically there's not a lot of Daleks left at this point.
because they're bad at what they do.
And, you know, that's something that I was thinking a lot about as I was kind of rewatching this. I probably haven't seen this one in maybe 15 years. I don't know. It's been a while. So I was rewatching it. So watching it as more of an adult, someone who's had a lot more experience watching fiction and things like that, the Daleks are really desperate. This is a really gritty story in a way that, you know, you think about gritty stories and, okay, well, that's a gritty Doctor Who story, but this story is like super. I mean, you already said that there's a high fatality rate, right? But there's something just super weird and off about this story. It almost doesn't feel like a Doctor Who story. I mean, there are definitely the Doctor Who elements and those kinds of things, but they're like everyone in this are desperate. And you wouldn't have got a story like this 2 or 3 years before this. Even other Dalek stories, you don't feel the desperation. There's like 3 or 4 factions in this, because you've got the Doctor and his people. You've got the people on the ship. You've got 5 factions, really. You have the Daleks. You have Layne, who kind of works for himself. And then you have Davros, right? And they're all desperate.
There's also like a whole group we haven't even
Gotten to
yet.
the military people.
The military people on Earth.
Right. But everyone is desperate. There's just like this sense of like finality and desperation, and you start seeing it here, this part that you're talking about. Like nothing can possibly go right, and it keeps going, and it just gets worse and worse and worse. I never noticed that before, because, you know, I just watched, when I was a kid, I'd watch Doctor Who and think about it. Well, sure, it's Davros. You get cool Daleks. There's some cool laser gun scenes, and that's cool. But man, is this a gritty story? I dare say this is the grittiest of the Dalek stories, of the classic series Dalek stories. There's a lot of other times that they get like this. Maybe Revelation is, gosh dang, that one's pretty dreary too. But so tons and tons of desperation in this, in a way that I don't think we've ever seen in a Dalek story. It just really comes out as everyone, every angle, every side of this is just desperate.
And there's so many sides.
There really are.
Maybe too many. I'm not sure.
I will say too, in addition to showing how desperate the Daleks are, that they have like partnered with this other group of people, it also does the really amazing and practical thing of letting human beings speak.
So it's not constantly just Daleks talking to themselves?
So yeah, really cutting down on just Daleks yelling at Daleks, which is fine for like the occasional scene. But like we have definitely had it in like Doctor Who before, where we've like dropped exposition that way, and your ears just want to die. So I think it's also kind of a practical choice as well.
It's also worth mentioning that this is the first Dalek story in a really long time, and I think there had only been 2 before, that wasn't written by Terry Nation. So Terry Nation wrote all the first Doctor stories. He didn't write Evil or Power of the Daleks.
David Whittaker, right?
Yeah, those are Whittaker. And then he wrote all the Third Doctor stories, and then wrote all the two Fourth Doctor stories. So this is first of all, this is the first Davros story without Terry Nation writing it. Second, it's only the third Dalek story since the show started that Terry Nation hadn't written. So I think that probably is the answer to that question, because I think Terry Nation really liked to hear the Daleks talk amongst themselves and kind of have that. There's like this internal politics of the Daleks. He also probably would have never had humans working for the Daleks or working with the Daleks. They weren't working for them, really. They were, I mean, essentially like mercenaries, right? The Daleks hired mercenaries. So there's that. I think that, to your point, is probably why. Plus, you had the modernization of television at the time and those kinds of things. But to your point, I think Terry Nation not writing those probably made a lot of difference.
I would say a positive difference. Terry Nation was an awfully repetitive man. He's written a bunch of Dalek serials, but I think he's really only written 3 different ones. I was excited like when I found out this one wasn't written by Terry Nation. I don't know if that's bad of me, but I didn't particularly care for the last Dalek serial or any of the Third Doctor Dalek stories. So I was kind of
excited to see somebody else do something with them.
Yeah, some freshness put in there. Though Genesis was really good. But that's because specifically someone told Terry Nation, write something different, because he wrote a thing and they were like, this is very similar to other stories you've done. Can you try something a little different? And he's like, yeah, sure. Sometimes you just need that push, you know?
Yeah, get out of your comfort zone.
Yeah. Team TARDIS is like looking around trying to find the time corridor. Then they just notice that Turlough is missing and they just start calling out for Turlough.
This is such a weird... I mean, it's not that weird. I think it was a bizarre editing choice to me, because, like, Turlough is just gone. They can't find him. And then, like, immediately he is just, like, on the ship, and, like, you're just like, oh, I guess he went through the corridor. And then later, because they haven't found him, they're like, oh, I guess he went through the time corridor. And it's like, you guys don't know that.
When it shows Turlough on the Dalek ship, I was like, whoa, what? Wait, how did he get here? It was very confusing, and he didn't seem confused.
Take time to explain it.
Yeah.
They just kind of think, you'll figure it out.
I mean, I did eventually, but it threw me for a second. I was like, did I miss something? How did he get here?
How much of that just has to do with the fact of, like, well, what does the time corridor look like? We won't show it. That sounds complicated.
I mean, they just appear in a pink thing, and then they're in that white room. That's the time corridor. But when they're calling out for Turlough, they alert a guy nearby named Colonel Archer, and they sort of show up. There's like these military people there that are studying something that we don't know yet, but we eventually find out these like canisters, these big blue pill-looking things, giant pills, not pills you'd take. It's like pills were made way too big for you to actually ingest.
They are capsule size or capsule shaped? Is that?
Yeah, but they're big.
Okay.
They're like baby sized.
They are large capsules.
Yes. Yes, the prison ship people, Litton's plan is to gas them, and they get gassed, and they get just fucked right up. Just like their faces melt. And it's disturbing.
I remember when we were watching this,
going, ew! A lot.
Yeah, but like feeling like that feels like a lot for Doctor Who. Like there were a couple things where I was like, it wasn't so much that I would call it gory necessarily, but I was like, it's gorier than I feel like I have seen on this show. At some point coming up, Tegan falls and hits her head, and when they show like the wound where she hit her head, it is like deep and gross. Like it's not just like she fell and now she's gonna have like a bandage, with like a red dot for the rest of the time. They like show like an open wound on her forehead, a big old gash. So like, and yeah, people's faces are like melting. Like this serial is a lot.
Yeah, I think this has been like a very kind of gross, goo heavy era. But it's usually contained to just like one shot, one scene sort of thing. It's not as prevalent through the whole serial. And it's a recurring thing in this serial, not just a dash and then we're done. Usually it's just, the bad guy being destroyed and he
Well,
goos.
And usually when you say goo, it's like there's one shot of like green slime. This is like flesh melting and stuff. Like that's way different.
I liked it though. It's good. It's good in a creepy kind of way.
I think the thing about that they got me is that it happens so fast, right? Like, it's not even, you really haven't even had time to inhale that gas yet, and it's deformed you.
It's a fast acting gas. But because they're being attacked and losing, they're like, destroy the prisoner. So Osborn tries to press the destroy the prisoner button, but it isn't working because nothing on the ship works. So she's going to have to do it manually. She's going to have to go find the room with the prisoner. But also the Daleks kill everyone on the bridge because, like, she presses the button on the bridge and then it doesn't work and she runs out. And then the Daleks appear and just kill everyone. Literally everyone on the bridge.
It's like, that's your first moment where you're like, oh.
This serial's not messing around.
Yeah, we're being real serious.
And then Osborn enters the prisoner room and she's, like, fiddling with stuff.
This scene is great.
I love how this is shot.
Yes, because you're watching her fiddling with stuff, and if you're not paying attention, then you do not see just Davros in the background of this shot.
Right. It does. The camera does not, like, focus on him. He's just there in the background, and it's, like, ominous. And they're trying to destroy Davros. He's in, like, he's frozen. He's in, like, a big cryogenic chamber. Yeah, it's a very good idea. And then there's a guy with Osborn. He also starts melting, saying, help me, help me. And, like, his face is melting, and she shoots him. She kills him. It's a mercy kill, I suppose. And because she shoots him, the troopers coming in, the human ones, Litton's crew, I guess, hear that and come in and shoot her. I don't remember if it's at this point that we see the Dalek helmets, but I think maybe this is when we see the Dalek helmets.
Oh, they're so good! They basically look a lot like Darth Vader helmets.
Yeah.
I did notice that they look like the Darth Vader helmets are like something from Spaceballs.
Yes, I thought of Spaceballs before I thought of Darth Vader.
But they have the Dalek balls and they have eye stalks. And Joe, I think you were like,
what's the eye stalk for?
What function does that serve? And I will tell you, the function is aesthetics. It's all about fashion.
Sure. It serves no function.
But to look good.
Would you wear a Dalek helmet like that?
Yes.
I would wear one in a second.
I know your derby name is like Lexx Terminate. Did you have like a Dalek helmet?
If you just had like an S1 inside it?
My very first helmet, I took it and I painted it. And I painted like Dalek markings all over it. And I put like an eye stalk on the front of it. It was pretty cool. I've still got it. I'm going to keep that thing forever.
That's awesome.
Did you skate while holding a plunger in one hand?
I did that once.
Plunger and a whisk.
I didn't think of the whisk, but I did have a plunger one time.
Awesome. That's very cool. So they go in there and they shoot Osborn. So pretty much the only people left alive, I think, are Mercer, Styles, and two other people whose names I don't even think get said. So they're cannon fodder. But the bad guys, or Litton and his people, release Davros for the Daleks. The Daleks send a Dalek through the time corridor into the warehouse, and the Dalek appears in the warehouse saying, exterminate, and
Dalek shit.
That would have been the first episode cliffhanger.
Oh, okay.
And then episode 2 would have begun, which I would have called Agent of the Daleks. The Dalek kills one of the military guys, but then the doctor says, shoot at its eye stalk. So they shoot it, and it blinds the Dalek. He cannot see, so they shove him out of a door that's like a few stories up. So he falls and then explodes, because...
It's a good explosion. It felt satisfying.
I feel like that might be some poor craftsmanship if you just explode immediately upon falling. Like,
I mean, you would.
I wouldn't explode. I'd break some bones. I wouldn't catch fire.
Yeah, I don't think he was falling from that far up either, so he shouldn't have exploded.
Looks cool, though.
One of the things is that they obviously changed the model as they were pushing him out the door. Like, it goes from having, like, the clear headlamps to red headlamps.
Did not notice that.
Yeah, and it's slightly thinner, too, and it had probably been used somewhere else. It was probably like a store dummy or something that they had used for promotion. I don't know that, but it definitely had a slightly different look to it.
That's nice. It's the stunt Dalek,
right? Seriously, they're not going to push a regular dolly. Those things were like expensive to make, so whatever they're going to push out, it's going to be something that's pretty simple and cheap.
Usually, those have people inside of them.
That's true.
But it's in the process of pushing this Dalek out, and the Dalek spinning his little head around. I think that it hits Tegan in the head, and she gets that head wound you were talking about. It's in this little kerfluffle. And then the Doctor wants to get those pieces back because he wants to study the Dalek at some point, I suppose. But Mercer, Styles, and the two others that have no name are wandering around. And they're like, basically, Mercer's like, I'm giving up. I was a noob, and now I've learned things. Everything sucks. And then Styles kind of has to, like, take charge and be like, well, we can't let everyone die for nothing. Let's do something. And he's like, what? And she's like, there is a self-destruct button. Let's just blow this ship up. Kill the Daleks. And Davros. So they head off to do that. Meanwhile, the military people sort of tell the Doctor and everybody about the strange canisters that they found in this building, and they haven't been able to open them, and they don't know what they are, but they're probably alien, and they probably have something to do with the Daleks, because why else would the Daleks be here? Then Lytton, they finally get Davros de-thawed. De-thawed? Just thawed?
Just thawed.
Just don't know how words work. They thaw out Davros and
Did
Lytton.
you combine defrost and thaw? Is that
Yes, that's exactly what I did.
Yeah.
A lot of microwave terms. But that Lytton sort of fills Davros in on everything that has happened in his frozen time. He says that the Daleks lost their fight with the Movellans, which were in the previous Davros serial, which they were the guys with the dreadlocks, right?
Yes, they were the disco guys. They looked like they were about to go to a skating rink and listen to ABBA. But do you want me to blow your mind seriously right now?
Yes.
Okay, so there was a novel in the Eighth Doctor line. It was one of the earliest novels in the BBC books range when they took it over from Virgin. And there was a novel called War of the Daleks. And I wait to this point to tell you this because they retcon every story after Destiny of the Daleks in this novel. So you can take it or leave it. But in the War of the Daleks, you find out that the Movellans were just some robots the Daleks created to trick Davros and the Doctor to play this long game so that they could then trick Davros into, like, having them be their leader again.
What?
It's the weirdest, most convoluted story ever. And then they end up putting Davros on trial, and they're going to kill him, but then the Doctor's there, and, So every story, this novel retcons every story from Destiny of the Daleks on. So, like, what we find out is in the canisters, I don't want to give it away, was all just a joke. It was all just a trick to trick Davros into putting him on trial and then, like, letting him know that it was all just fake. I recommend the book just for the ridiculous humor aspect of it. If you can find it, it's John Peel wrote it. It's one that we never got to on the Oncoming Storm podcast. I wish we had, because Josh and I would have just fought each other. But because I love that stuff, man. I eat it up. Josh, not so much. But yeah, I highly recommend this book for just the retcon nature of everything that happens in it.
That is the weirdest long con.
Yeah.
What a completely bonkers thing.
It is. So again, you can take it or leave it, but I would recommend you finding the book and reading it.
I'm going to at some point. I plan on consuming all Doctor Who media. I'm moving very slowly through all of it, but I'm going to reject it for now. until I can properly absorb the insanity of what you just said. So, yes, according to the timeline now said about by this episode, the Daleks lost their fight with the Movellans, so they want Davros back.
Yeah, I mean, specifically, he's like a biological agent. There's a virus.
Yes, there's a virus.
And, like, they need Davros to figure out how to... They need a vaccine.
Yeah, because that's what the Movellans developed because they were, like, stuck in a logic stalemate, and then they were like, wait a minute, let's just make a virus that kills only Daleks.
Right.
And then that worked. They have not found a cure for it yet. This whole time, Turlough's just been wandering around, and that's all he's been doing.
So casually, too.
I just want to mention, he finds a room that has a bubble wrap bed in it.
Having that bed be set up and then just waiting.
Just waiting for somebody to lay on that bubble wrap bed.
That's the real tension of this episode.
But in the future, all beds are bubble wrap.
It's not just beds, it's fashion. It's monsters, even. But meanwhile, Colonel Archer, of the leader of the military group, has gone to find a telephone because they're trying to use their radio, but it's not working, to be like, hey, there was a big fucking robot attacked us. What's up with that? send some reinforcements, but the radio's not working. So he goes to find a telephone, and he gives the doctor his gun to fight the Daleks, because he's the only one who knows about Daleks.
The doctor's reaction to that is great, by the way, because it's mostly just confusion.
I don't want this.
Yeah.
I kill people in different ways. I don't use guns.
It's gotta be a lot more complicated.
Just great big bombs and whatnot. So the broken Dalek has been brought into the warehouse, and there's a really great musical sting when it zooms in on the wreckage of the Dalek, and we see that the squid guy, the squid Dalek inside lives. He moves around a bit. And there's just some, like, very 80s synth music playing over it, and I loved it. Meanwhile, the Daleks spot Turlough just wandering around, but they decide to do nothing about it, because they're like, if we leave him just wandering around, the Doctor will come looking for him, and that's who we really want, is the Doctor.
Which is wild to me, because they could have captured him.
They could have.
Instead of just letting him wander.
Good point, but they don't want Turlough.
That is fair. Poor Turlough.
Nobody wants Turlough. So then Mercer and Styles take out some of the guys in Dalek helmets, then take their outfits so that they can look like Dalek troopers. I'm going to call them Dalek troopers.
Yeah, that's fair.
I think that might even be what they're called.
Which, by the way, there definitely becomes a point where, like we've already said, there are like 5 different groups of people in this serial, and now 2 of them are wearing the same outfits. There definitely becomes a point in this serial where I'm like, wait.
Who's who?
Everyone stop moving. Who's doing what now?
Who's on whose side?
Yeah, that happened to me at least once or twice.
The Doctor wants to go find Turlough. He is interrupted from going to find Turlough by a guy screaming. He has been attacked by the Dalek, the loose Dalek. I think was he killed by the Dalek? I think he was killed by the Dalek.
I don't remember.
I think this guy was killed by the Dalek.
It's a good bet. Like, the body count's high enough.
Yeah.
The numbers are
Might
on your
as well
side.
be. If he's not now, he will be eventually.
Yeah.
So they decide to go Dalek hunting.
Here's the thing. This is, like, 10 times scarier to me.
Just a loose Dalek?
Than, like, having the tin can around shooting beams. I think they do a good job of making it seem dangerous. You could very easily be, like, you know, you're fighting a big rubber squid kind of thing.
Right.
Which it is a little bit. But, like, there's definitely a moment where, you know, the Doctor's like, it's still in here somewhere. Where you're like, oh God.
It's squishing around somewhere.
Oh no. There's something about that of like being in the room with a thing, but not knowing where. That's terrifying.
Well, and that's a thing that premise had never really been done, right? I mean, and the thing is they do it, they play this out in 10 minutes. And that actually is a great premise for an entire serial, right?
Right.
I mean, hopefully it would be more than just that, but I mean, it's it's not unlike Horror of Fang Rock. I mean, it's similar in that there, except the thing could turn into people. Yeah, I mean, that part of this is incredibly scary. It's the first time we've really seen, I think, ever at this point, like a free roaming Dalek mutant, and they play it out in 10 minutes or less.
I wonder if Chibnall was inspired by this episode for the last. Was it a New Year's special? I don't know. The one with the woman gets the Dalek attached to her. I forget. Was that called Revolution? I think, or is that the next one coming up? I don't remember.
Who could remember Dalek titles?
Resolution.
I think it was Resolution because it was a New Year's.
Yeah, because that one's got like a roaming Dalek mutant for a little bit in that one too, and it's pretty good considering I don't care for Chibnall very much. Yeah, this is a good idea.
Out of the tin can.
This would have been the era that he was pretty active in Doctor Who fandom. We know a few years later we saw him on a chat show or whatever, representing the fan community.
Amazing.
So Litton's like, we need to get you out of here, Davros. We gotta take you away. And he's like, nope, I refuse to leave. I like being next to my freezy chamber in case I need to go get frozen again because things go bad. I won't leave. You can't make me.
I think mostly he just doesn't want to be near too many Daleks at once.
Which is fair because they've, I guess kind of killed him the first time in Genesis.
Definitely betrayed him.
Yeah. Oh, we should also mention this is the first time that Terry Malloy plays Davros.
Oh.
We got to meet him once at Hoolanta, and he's
nice.
Adorable and carries a teddy bear around. I miss Hoolanta.
Me too.
Ashley, tell Alan to start it back up.
Everyone does. I mean, he did the virtual one this summer that wasn't planned. I mean, he put that together in like week and a half or something.
Oh wow!
Pretty. I mean, I exaggerate a little bit, but I think there's always the possibility that it comes back.
I heard, was it Hunuga?
Chattahooga.
Chattahooga. There we go.
Yeah,
that should happen.
Yeah, one day. It's still there. That's my goal. Just not in the middle of a pandemic.
Yeah, that's fair.
Sadly.
Let's end this pandemic so we can continue to have Doctor Who conventions.
That is something that's in the cards, though. I mean, one day I might sit down and actually work with Alan to make that happen.
We will be there because that's closer than Atlanta. So, anyway, Archer finds a phone booth outside, tries to use it, but the cord's been cut, and he's like, oh, well, what'd I do? Oh, there's some policemen right there. I'll go talk to them and see if I can use their radio. And he holds it up, and he's like, it's not working, it's fake. And then they put a gun to his head, because they are evil.
I like that they let him get that far. Like, maybe he won't notice that our radios are fake, and then he'll leave.
Maybe we're just like, oh, it doesn't work. Bye.
And how come they've decided to just cut all of the communication in like 3 blocks of this warehouse? This is Earth, right? I mean,
yeah.
Later on, you see kind of people walking in the background while these cops are chasing someone, and it's just like it's like it's this desolate planet, but it's Earth. In 1984.
It feels so claustrophobic.
It really does.
There's just somebody out there getting a coffee like a mile down the road. It's kind of nuts. There is a scene where Davros screams about how great he's going to be. I feel like this Davros is better than the last Davros, who was very kind of quiet and just there in the last episode. I think in Genesis he was good. Genesis he was good. Destiny he was kind of boring. And this one he's back to being kind of bonkers in a way that I enjoy.
Oh, for sure.
Though a little bit harder to understand when he's screaming.
I think my favorite thing, too, is that he does just... A lot of his scenes end with him just, like, losing it. Mm-hmm. Like, he'll be carrying on random dialogue, and then he'll be like, anyway, this is my plan, and it's gonna be the best, greatest plan ever, and oh my god! And you're just like, who are you yelling at? Who are you talking to, Davros? Calm down. But it's good. Yeah. It's fun to watch.
And from this point on, he starts sort of mind controlling everyone. He's got this little thing hidden in his chair that he jabs in their neck, and then he can control them.
Mind control doodad.
A mind control doodad. He just starts slowly amassing people to his side. So this is another instance of one group of people becoming a different group of people.
And this is the part that's strange about that. So if you can assume that he's been frozen since Destiny of the Daleks, that means he already had that device in his wheelchair. Actually, he had to have that device in his wheelchair and planned this from Genesis of the Daleks.
That's a good point. He's had that for over 90 years.
And he's just been waiting for some human to get close enough.
There's a lot of long game playing that's going on here.
He's playing a long con. The Daleks are playing a long con.
There's some 5-dimensional chess shit going on that we are not privy to.
The next scene made me feel bad as a human being. They're looking for the Dalek mutant in the warehouse that got loose. And there is a blanket that's like jiggling. And I was like, just hit it with your stick.
Oh, no.
Just smack it.
No.
And then,
that's clearly it. Just hit it. Just kill it.
if I had been in that situation, I would have accidentally murdered a cat. Because it's not a Dalek. It's a cute little kitten.
You would have just smashed the cat.
I would have just smashed the hell out of that cat.
But it's so quiet while it's underneath the blanket. But when they take the blanket off, it starts meowing like crazy. You'd think that it would be meowing the whole time and they would know.
Maybe that cat's cold.
So this is another one of those weird little things in a documentary that they made about the making of Doctor Who. A few years after this, they came back and were talking about incidental music. And this is the scene that they used to demonstrate like how like no music in a scene is boring. If you add music, it's exciting. And they go through and like when that all happens and they pull up the thing, there are like 3 piano notes. It goes ding, ding. It's not piano notes. It's they're doing it on a pipe or something, you know. But that scene always stands out to me because it was in that. It was used as a demonstration for like why incidental music is important in this documentary from like 1986, I think. So that Silver Nemesis is when that documentary was made.
I think that's the piece of music that I really like. So
It's a fun little documentary. It was made by an American PBS company, but it's pretty easy to find. It should be just like Making of Doctor Who or something like that.
neat. I'll need to check that out. But while they're looking at this cute little kitten, the squid Dalek just jumps on this dude's like throat, face, attacks this other guy, and they grab it in the blanket, and then they throw it to the ground and they shoot it a whole bunch without damaging the blanket at all.
I guess, yeah.
The blanket jiggles while they're shooting it, but there's no holes. This really bothered me. You couldn't rig up a little something? Again, the doctor asks Stein for his help to get on the Dalek ship, and Stein reiterates that he is in fact a coward and doesn't really want to do this, but he will do it anyway. Meanwhile, Turlough is captured by Mercer and Stiles in disguise. Mercer is immediately like, let's kill Turlough. And Stiles is like, hold up, we don't entirely know what his deal is. Let's question him before we just murder him. And then we get more sort of exposition from Davros, who says he was conscious for those 90 years he was frozen. And
That kind of stuff fucks me up.
what do you think you do? I just try to sleep a lot. Surely you can still, like, sleep. Turn off your brain. Or is he just constantly conscious?
I think so.
You don't think you could just shut it down for a little bit? Like, take a little nap?
No, you're frozen.
Okay. But he finds out that the doctor is there, and he's like, that they're planning to get the doctor. And he's like, cool, because I want to drain his knowledge and then kill him. And I'm going to yell about it a little bit, too. Very excitedly. The soldier who was attacked by the Dalek mutant, they're worried that he might be poisoned because they don't know anything about this Dalek. And indeed he appears to be, because he gets up, shoves a guy over Tegan, and then runs off. And then 4 Daleks appear in the warehouse through the time corridor. The military people, like Archer and somebody else, I don't remember who, tell Tegan, and there's another a scientist with him whose name is Laird. Her name is Laird. She's really cool. I like Laird a lot. They basically tell him to stay put, and they seem kind of weird because they've been replaced by duplicates. We will find that out later. And she actually right now, Tegan realizes that Archer isn't the real Archer, because
He has a gun belt still.
and she's like, he's not real. I'm going to try to leave. And she tries to leave. And he's like, if you leave, you will be shot. So she doesn't leave. And then the doctor and Stein go through the time corridor. What?
No, I'm upset. I'm getting upset.
They get on the Dalek ship. And Stein immediately heads to like a little pantry. I don't know. A little cupboard. And pulls out a gun.
I
And
cannot believe this.
points it at the doctor. And he's like, guess what? I'm a Dalek agent. Bom, bom, bom.
I don't think I've ever felt so betrayed.
Me either. I really like this little pathetic coward guy. And he's evil. That is the end of episode 1. A good cliffhanger, because I was legitimately upset because I like this guy. But it's okay. He gets better. That's the end of episode 1. We're now into episode 2, which I have called Let's Kill Davros, which is my homage to Let's Kill Hitler.
Okay.
Because everybody wants to kill Davros this episode.
Everyone.
Including people I didn't think would want to. So the Daleks stroll into the warehouse saying, or they stroll up to the doctor saying exterminate. Lytton shows up and says, hold up, your Dalek overlord doesn't want the doctor killed. He wants him duplicated first. And they're like, oh, okay, well, fine. Laird and Tegan start digging up one of the canisters. And I'm like, what are they going to do with that canister? I bet it's something very exciting. And they just shove it in the bed and try to make it look like Tegan. It's just a fake Tegan. And even they're like, this looks like shit.
This is terrible.
This is not a good plan whatsoever. Meanwhile, Davros has gotten set up at a lab near the chamber because he still won't leave the ship. And he says he will work on the cure, but he needs a sample of the virus and a couple of Daleks so he can get a Dalek tissue sample. And everyone's like, wow, Davros is needy, but we'll do it. Meanwhile, Turlough, Mercer, and Stiles break into the room with the self-destruct button.
This is a good set.
It kind of reminds me of the TARDIS console a bit, because it's like...
It's round. It's like the only thing in the room at this big round console. It's like a
thing.
dome.
Mm-hmm.
Like a glass dome, and there's like levers all around it. And you gotta fuss with it to get it open, I guess.
Well, I mean, I imagine there's a lot of safety precautions. You don't want to accidentally just lean on the self-destruct button, you know?
That's fair.
The Daleks see this on their monitors and tell Lytton that he must stop them. Turlough, meanwhile, is like, hey, we don't actually have to blow ourselves up, all of us. There's a time corridor. We can use that to escape the self-destruct thing. And they're like, okay, well, they sort of split up. Mercer and Turlough go to look for the time corridor while the rest sort of stick around and try to get the self-destruct thing set up. And then while they're working on it, Styles sees one of the Dalek troopers and locks themselves into the self-destruct room. And they're trying to break into the self-destruct room while they're trying to self-destruct. I feel like I said self-destruct way too many times just now. So then the Doctor is taken to the bubble wrap room. And he lays on top of the bubble wrap. And I was very excited. And it does indeed go pop pop when his feet connect with it. I was very happy. Dumb thing to be happy about, but I'm happy nonetheless.
No, that made me pretty happy too. I was waiting for it.
I was like, it's gonna pop when he sits on it, right?
It has to. It has to.
And then it did. And all was right in the world. And that's when he finds out that Stein is also a duplicate. Stein's sort of like setting everything up on the device that's going to drain the Doctor of his knowledge and I guess make a duplicate. Oh, there's also a Tegan and a Turlough duplicate as well.
That is creepy.
Yeah.
They're like in a cabinet and the cabinet slides open and they're just lying there.
When did they get those?
That's such a good question.
I was wondering how, when did they get them on this bubble wrap table to make a duplicate of them?
Here's what I think.
Neither one of them has been captured yet.
Right.
Here's what I think. I think they can make the shells.
The bodies.
The bodies. They need to put them on the bubble wrap thing to get, memories and personality and stuff.
Oh, that makes sense.
That's why Archer had the gun belt. They already made him. Wasn't, duplicating him exactly from when they got him to get him to get his memory and stuff.
But part of the reason why they're going to duplicate the Doctor, just like their plan, it's so evil. They're going to send him back to Gallifrey so that he can basically
assassinate the High Council
Yes.
Time Lords, yeah. That's a really good plan. I'd actually like to see that episode. That's one thing that kind of bummed me out is I was like, oh, we're going to get an evil Doctor. That's always a good time.
Yeah.
But we don't actually get to see an evil fifth Doctor. We got to see it a little bit in Armageddon. Was it Armageddon Factor? Is that the one where Omega turns into 5 for a little bit? No, not Armageddon Factor. What was it? I don't know. All these titles are blending together.
You
in
always
my head.
ask me, and I
Arc of Infinity.
Arc of Infinity. Thank you. I knew it was something.
cannot retain that information for the life of me.
I was going to say, that's what you're here for.
The other thing about this is that this is also a step in the direction of a time war, which eventually we do get between the Daleks and the Time Lords. And we see it from the other point of view, where the Time Lords tried to commit genocide and genesis of the Daleks with the Doctor. And now the Daleks are turning that, and they're going to commit murder and destroy the High Council of Gallifrey with the Doctor. Right? Or in theory. So you actually begin to see this subterfuge of terrorism and things that these two factions are doing. It makes you wonder what they're doing behind the scenes and how much of this is kind of leading up to what we do eventually find out is a time war.
I think this is the first episode as well that confirms that the Daleks know who the Time Lords are, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
They didn't specifically know before.
I mean, let's be honest. At this point, the show barely knew who the Time Lords were much before this. I mean, they look different every time you see them. They're, we had seen them before in the Tom Baker era. We saw them in the second Doctor era. We saw them in the third Doctor era. But they always look different. They feel different. You get the impression there's different things happening. Only now we've seen these two stories. We've seen the Five Doctors and then Arc of Infinity. And you get to see them begin to tell us what Time Lord society looks like. The Deadly Assassin a little bit, but it's really beginning to kind of solidify, right, in terms of things, and it's beginning to be a part of Doctor Who. So yeah, the fact that the Daleks know the Time Lords and it's referenced is pretty important in terms of where that is in the Doctor Who timeline and mythology.
I think it's a really neat idea, and like I said, I wish that there actually had been some more exploration of that. Maybe there will be. I don't know. But, I mean, I guess there definitely will be if there's going to be a Time War eventually. But I would like more in this serial of sort of exploring that idea of That's the thing. This serial is kind of full of ideas, and some of them don't entirely go anywhere. But, like, the idea of a duplicate doctor, the idea of them trying to assassinate Gallifreyans, and it's like the Daleks have, like, 3 plans going on at once. We gotta get Davros. We gotta duplicate the doctor. We gotta do all this. So, yeah, it's a lot happening, but it's fun. It's very fun. It's at this point that Turlough tells Mercer that the Daleks haven't left this ship yet because they still want something. They want Davros. So, what do we need to do? Let's kill Davros. If we kill Davros, then they can't get Davros, and maybe they'll just leave. And then Davros mind controls some Daleks. He gets those 2 Daleks for the tissue samples, but they push their little heads off, and then he sticks his little mind control device in there, and mind controls him some Daleks. And then they also are going to get, because he's got the Daleks, he's like, all right, you guys keep jerking me around about getting me a sample of this virus. Get me a virus. So one of those canisters is beamed up by the Daleks that he has in control. And I think that's the first time that we fully know that those canisters have the Movellan virus in them. Meanwhile, the Daleks and Stein are like operating on the Doctor, and the Daleks are like, we have to leave now for reasons. Bye. We're going to leave you alone with this guy. Then the Doctor just immediately is like trying to tap into the humanity of Stein. Be like, you have like memories of a real person in there. You are a duplicate of a real person, and trying to get that person to come out. And like his stutter comes back, and he's like saying like, I have no choice. I have no choice. And then starts operating on him, and it's pretty terrifying. I liked it.
That's some decent acting.
Meanwhile, Styles has almost gotten to the self-destruct button, and she has a line that I really like, which she's like, we're nearly there. Why am I so excited? This is the last thing I'll ever do. And I was like, that is deep and dark and good. It's just a good line. So at this point, Tegan has escaped, and Laird has stayed behind so that she can help sell that canister is Tegan.
She doesn't.
She is immediately found out and taken away. But Tegan sort of just runs around trying to find people, and she is followed by the policeman, the 2 policemen.
This is the most confusing, disturbing thing.
She finds a guy with a metal detector and is hollering for him, and the policemen show up and corner her. And then they just shoot the guy with the metal detector, who is like 3 miles away.
And he was turned around, like he didn't see anything that happened, and he had headphones on, so he didn't hear anything.
Why did they do that?
They're just cold sons of bitches.
It just happened to be upsetting.
I think it's supposed to show you how callous they are. But yeah, it's disturbing. Like, this serial has such a high body count that even the random guy with the metal detector gets killed. Guy making a cigarette gets killed. Just everybody gets it. Then, to continue this theme, the Dalek helmet guys, the Dalek troopers, break into the self-destruct room and kill everyone inside. Styles was almost ready to press the button, and she gets murdered. Everyone in there gets murdered. Meanwhile, Mercer is watching. Mercer and Turlough are both watching, and he is very sad about it. So he's the last one left from this prison ship. That's very sad. Then Tegan and Laird are brought back together by the military duplicates, and they're going to be taken to the Dalek ship. But then Laird breaks free, and she runs, and then she gets shot and dies. And I was very upset about that, because I kind of mildly shipped Tegan and Laird.
All right, I can see it.
I haven't had anybody to ship Tegan with since Nyssa left.
And she did a science? Was that...
Yes, and Laird is a scientist. She fills that science hole left by Nyssa. But sadly, it is not to be. Laird gets shot and dies. Meanwhile, the Doctor's still trying to persuade Stein.
This is another time, by the way, where I've talked about it before, that like 5 is very good at being in pain. Yeah.
Yeah, because he's being zapped by this thing. And we get another thing that we get a lot in this era, which is, hey, we're going to show clips of every single, era of Doctor Who.
I always like it.
I think 2 companions get skipped. One of them by accident, and one of them because I just think they forget about Chameleon. But they go backwards. They show we see, it's basically taking his
Who
memories.
got skipped?
Duplicating his memories. I don't remember. I don't know. I was reading it on the wiki and it was one of the companions. I forget which one, but I think it was just like they accidentally skipped them. I don't remember which one, but it shows nearly all of the companions. It shows all of the doctors. They split it up too, because we get like, first off, all the color ones. And
then another scene happens.
Then we come back, and then it's like all of the black and white ones. I feel like so it's less jarring that it switches to black and white. And it's not even fully black and white. They give a blue tint to it. And they also add this like really wobbly effect to it, which is unintentionally hilarious to me, because you just see the first Doctor like...
There's one shot I think of Ian that I found particularly funny.
Yes.
Where he's just got like a big forehead and then like the rest of his face is skinny and then his chin is big. Like a real hourglass shape.
I believe Stein he turns off the machine and he's like, I'm tired of this confusion. And then he releases the Doctor. That's actually a little bit later, because before that happens, that's kind of a cliffhanger, is the Doctor gets zapped and all the companions and stuff, we see him. And then Davros says he's going to kill the Doctor and make new, better Daleks. And that was the cliffhanger of episode 3.
Okay. That doesn't super feel like a cliffhanger, but okay.
I mean, the Doctor's being tortured and Davros is like, everything's going great.
Right.
That's pretty dire, I guess. But now we are into what would have been episode 4. Tegan gets taken to the ship. I think she's just by herself for some reason. Mercer shows up and sees her and is going to shoot her. And then Turlough, like, tackles him and is like, what are you doing? I know her.
He literally says, that's Tegan. For some reason, this scene is very cute to me.
It is.
But I think because Turlough and Tegan, like, did not like each other to start off with.
Do they like each other now?
I think...
Maybe a little bit.
I think they are...
Like a brother-sister.
Yes, exactly. Exactly like that.
Mm.
They're, like, protective of each other, but they're still gonna, like, fight. Which is a nice relationship dynamic. I've been enjoying it.
And then they're like, we need to... Turlough's like, we need to leave. And then she's like, well, we gotta save the Doctor. The Doctor is here. And he's like, oh, okay, so let's go save the Doctor. And then they get to the room and the Doctor's already released and fine. And he's like, don't just stand there, come help. So their rescue plan is somewhat thwarted by the Doctor already being rescued. So they tie some dudes down and the Doctor shoots he gets a gun and he shoots the memory tape holder thing so no one can get the Doctor's memories. The Daleks, meanwhile, are getting tired of Lytton talking back so much, so they plan on killing him. They talk about this a lot. Then Stein sort of fills everyone in because he's like, I'm a good guy now, kind of. I've broken out of my conditioning. So here's the Daleks' plans. Here's everything they're doing.
He also doesn't know how much he can control that.
Right. He doesn't know if it'll, like, zap back and he will be helping the Daleks. And then the Doctor's like, all right, Tegan, Turlough, you go back to the TARDIS and wait for us, but I'm going to go kill Davros. And they're like, what? And he's like, yeah, I had the chance to do that before, and I didn't do it, and that was a mistake. I'm going to go murder a man.
This shit's so good.
It's very good. Mercer and Stein are both like, we'll go with you. Mercer's like, I'll help you. I got nothing better to do. And Stein's like, I want some revenge for the Daleks using me. So they pretend to be the Dalek troopers because they have the outfits. And they lead the Doctor to Davros. Meanwhile, the Daleks order Lytton to kill Davros and his Daleks. So everybody's trying to kill Davros right now. Because they found out about the Daleks that Davros has controlled.
The mind control.
So Daleks are trying to kill Davros. Lytton's ordered to kill Davros. The Doctor is heading to kill Davros. Let's kill Davros. But he's brought to Davros, presumably looking like a prisoner. And then he's like, tries to talk to him, like, see what's up. And then Davros is pretty much just like, I'm evil. And he's like, all right, I thought maybe you'd change, but I don't know why I thought that. And he points a gun at him. And he's like, I'm not here as your prisoner, Davros, but as your executioner. Jesus. But Davros is like, no, look, I want to reprogram the Daleks to be, better and more positive and be compassionate, but for evil reasons. Because the Doctor's like, yeah, right, whatever. You're just going to use them they'll do that, reprogram them to have more human emotions so that they'll be better killers.
Right, so that they won't be so stumped by logic the stalemate that they were in.
And Davros is like, no, look, like every planet has done war to get where they're at, and like to think otherwise is, you know, naive, and like it's a universal fact of life that you have to kill people and do wars and stuff. And he's like, and just join me, Doctor, and then you can lead my army of Daleks. And the Doctor points his gun right at Davros's face and says, I wouldn't know what to do with an army. It's hardcore.
This moment is so tense.
Like, the drama of this scene has increased to like 11. It feels slightly out of character. Not enough.
Not unearned.
Not unearned, yeah. I think it's very good dramatically. Maybe the best scene in the serial.
Oh, for sure.
And then the TARDIS gets dragged back to the warehouse because I believe the Doctor had set it up to return to Earth. He was not planning on coming back. He was just going to murder Davros and be done with it. And then he was wanting to protect Tegan and Turlough. But then it cuts back and the Doctor still hasn't shot Davros. And Davros is like, if it would have been me, I would have been dead already. What is taking you so long? And he's like, I'm new at this.
He says, I don't have... what does he say? I don't have your practice?
Yeah, but outside, Mercer shoots some guards that are coming up, and then some more guards come up, and Stein sort of like, I think his conditioning takes hold a little bit, and he's like, oh, they're on our side. And then Mercer's like, no, they're not. And then Mercer is killed. He gets shot, finally. Everybody from the prison ship is now dead. And then Stein takes out the guards, but I think he gets hurt too. He's like, feeling really upset about it. The Doctor pops his head out to see what's going on because he heard all the shooting. And then like he's talking to Stein like, are you okay? And Stein's like, I can't be here. I'm just going to cause more people to die. And then he runs off. And because the Doctor stepped out of the door, Davros shuts the door and locks it on him. And the Doctor says, I am an imbecile. So he did not kill Davros. He had the opportunity and did not do it.
Davros always gets off.
I'm wondering how he gets out of this serial. I'm excited to see it. I know he's going to come back eventually. The way this ends seems pretty final, but it seems pretty final every time, so I don't know.
Yeah.
It always seems final with Davros.
But Stein is like wandering the hallways and he's like, I'm gonna find the self-destruct room. I'm gonna do the right thing here before the Dalek conditioning can fully take over me. Meanwhile, Tegan and Turlough, since they've been dragged back to the warehouse, they're going to go look for one of those canisters. And this is when Turlough just complains the whole time. Like, do we have to? And she's like, come on, yes.
Literally, they already got the one out.
Yeah, they get the one out. And she's like, we need to get two.
That one was already out because they were using it to pretend to be Tegan. And so, yeah. She's like, no, we have to have two. Let's get this other one out. And he just walks away and sits down on the bed and looks at her. And she just goes, fine. Okay, I guess one is fine. Like, Turlough gives up, so Tegan gives up. She's like, I'm not gonna do this myself, so fine. I guess we're only gonna have one.
He literally just sits down and pouts.
Something going back just a little bit. There's one part where the Daleks get one of those canisters, you know, and then they're going to give it to Davros. And this just reminded me of that. It was like they were placing an order for one of those canisters. They were like, "Please bring me one Movellan canister." And it was like they were placing an order at a fast food restaurant. So I don't know. So that place is like the Movellan virus depot or whatever. They're just storing them there and then just randomly getting them. It's not even in the same place as the time corridor.
It's not.
No, it's not.
But they can apparently just pull from it whenever they want to.
I do know they make a point of saying, like, they put it on Earth because it's more secure or whatever. But the other thing that I like is that there's all these canisters, and it's not like they're on a shelf.
They're like half buried.
Yeah, they're half in a pile of dirt.
And that is weird that they're able to just beam one up at one point, because they do in like Laird's holding her head because there's like a loud piercing noise. But then what's the point of why do they need the time corridor? I mean, they just travel back and forth there, but they can also just beam it up? Why do they need to actually go there?
I don't have a good answer for that.
This is all falling apart.
This is how they stay employed. They just have like the people that guard it. I'm telling you, it's like the Daleks like fast food restaurant. They're just like, I'd like to place an order.
For a virus that kills only me.
One Movellan virus canister, please.
And a side of fries.
Davros is not making a cure, by the way. He's just making more of the virus, I believe. And he has these little eggs that he puts them in. And he gives them to his mind control people to distribute amongst the ship to destroy the Daleks. And then there's just like shootouts between Daleks and duplicates. Everyone starts shooting each other at this point.
That is kind of the fun thing about this. Is I know I mentioned like there are like so many fractions, and at some point I got like confused. But this serial is truly just a murderous free for all. Davros is trying to kill the Daleks are trying to kill Davros, like, everybody's trying to kill everyone else.
Daleks are trying to kill Daleks, there's the duplicates, Daleks, duplicates, Davros.
Even the Doctor is trying to kill people.
That's how crazy this one gets.
Doctor, Davros, Daleks, duplicates, death.
Lytton.
And then Lytton actually pretends to be dead. He plays dead during this whole big shootout.
Smart.
It really is. Like, my notes just say, or just like, Davros' men are exterminated. Lytton plays dead. The Daleks shoot Daleks. Stein gets to the self-destruct room. So that's not someone dying. But there's just... Phew. And then the Doctor uses the corridor to get into the warehouse, ducks around, avoiding gunfire, almost gets shot by Lytton. Well, actually, he blows up some Daleks when he's there. He just grabs some bombs from the Dalek ship and just straight up blows up some Daleks.
He sure does.
And then he gets to the TARDIS.
I like this scene because he sees that they've got the canister and he just goes, "Oh, good job.
Yeah.
Good call."
Tarlo's like, Tegan's been trying to open it, and I've been like, don't do that, because who knows what could happen. It could, like, kill everybody. And he's like, no, it's fine. I only kill the Daleks. And then, like, they've been trying to open it, and then he just hits it once and then twists it, and it opens. And then he releases the virus in the warehouse, killing Daleks. We also see some Daleks that come to kill Davros, but he's released the virus, and they die. And when they die in both the warehouse and when Davros kills them with the virus, they just ooze, just burst ooze out of their casing. Just shoots right out.
Is it
like squirts
shaving
out?
cream?
No, it's Daleks.
Oh, you're right. My bad.
It's just Dalek juice. It's disgusting.
It is pretty gross.
The funny thing is that's usually how you see like Cybermen die and things like that. You haven't really got to see the Daleks die that way.
Yeah.
I imagine they're just suffocating in their armor there.
Ugh, in their own goo.
I always imagined that was part of the mechanics of it. That was like oil or something, lubrication. But yeah, I guess thinking of it that way.
Oh, see, I just imagined it was the
like
squid thing.
Their
just
guts?
Yeah.
Well, I think it should have been yellow if that was the case, or green, but
it's still gooey, whatever it is.
Yeah, it's still pretty gooey.
Lytton, meanwhile, is watching this from a distance, like, and then there's like one of the policemen next to him, and he just kills the policeman, takes his hat, and leaves.
This is kind of
overkill?
No, it's great.
It's great.
Like him taking the hat, and you're like, oh, this motherfucker's just gonna fuck off to Earth. Oh no?
He's like, I'm out of here. I'm tired of this.
Here's the thing about Lytton, is you need to remember the way you feel right now, or the way you feel about him, and then come back to that when you see Attack of the Cybermen. That's when he shows up again. Just hold on to this feeling and the whole feeling of this story, and you're going to see I can't say anything. Just remember how you feel.
All right.
By the end of that story.
And then, like, Davros is like, ha 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 ha, I killed you, Daleks. And then he starts to ooze as well, and spark. And he's like, no, it's not supposed to affect me. Oh, no. And then, presumably, he dies and we never see him again in the entirety of the rest of Doctor Who. That's what I'm assuming.
Sure.
Right.
And then the Doctor's like, it's over. And then a Dalek appears on, like, a screen or whatever. And it's like, nah, it's not over. We've kind of already won. We've placed duplicates all around the world.
That's the Supreme Dalek, right?
Yeah, I think so.
I assumed because he's a different color.
So is it the black one?
Yeah.
Yeah. And he's like, we've put duplicates all over the place, so we've won already. And I feel like that's not resolved. Is that resolved?
No. That's the thing. That happens, and then, like, there's a shot
of Lytton and two of the duplicate policemen
just walking away. So there's a lot, like, still happening on Earth.
But Stein does get to do a heroic sacrifice. He's in the self-destruct room, and he gets exterminated. A Dalek shoots him, and then he dramatically flings his entire body onto the self-destruct lever thing, and the entire Dalek ship explodes.
A lot of satisfying explosions in this one.
I think the Dalek ship and the prison ship both explode because they're docked together, I guess. The bad guys get away. Lytton and I don't know if I guess he's not a bad guy, according to what Ashley's saying. But I don't know. It felt very ominous.
It super did. Because I think especially like in this era, it feels ominous to have loose ends.
Because that rarely happens.
Yeah.
And then Tegan is basically just like, I am tired of all this death and destruction.
Oh my god. This scene is upsetting.
She's like, my aunt always said, if something stops being fun, stop doing it. And she's like, this has stopped being fun. And
I mean, this comes at the end of like literally how many times have we talked about like the death count of this one?
Yeah,
like this was a brutal serial. Like when she's like saying that, you're like, yeah, like you feel for her. We have had a lot of companion exits that have felt unearned. This is not one of them.
Right, like it definitely like the build up to this episode definitely helps sell this ending.
Yeah.
It makes me a little sad that it's Tegan's leaving on such kind of bad terms almost, you know? But it feels real. It feels good. Like it feels earned. And yeah, she leaves and the doctor gets kind of self-reflective and is like, I can't blame her. This is the exact reason that I left Gallifrey in the first place. I was tired of the way things were going and, you know, and how destructive everything was. And I just killed a shit ton of Daleks. Everybody's dead. So, and then him and Turlough get in the TARDIS and leave. And then Tegan pops her head back around the corner and says, "Brave heart, Tegan."
Which made me bawl.
Which is something the doctor always says to her. And now she says it to herself.
Because even though it's like so destructive and it, you know, it is what it is, you know she's gonna miss it. Like, you know there's a part of her that wants to still stay, yeah.
Well, it's like she came back around to say, like, I changed my mind. That's the way I always took that, you know.
She did do that exact thing the first time she left.
Right.
Was in Time Flight. She's like, I'm gonna stay. And then she's like, actually, no, I'm gonna go back. Oh, he's gone. But she does say, Doctor, I will miss you. So, and that's it. That's the end of the serial. And the end of Tegan. Unless she shows back up in the next one like they did last time. But that's it. We're going to take a quick break, and we'll be back for final thoughts.
What is the Soul Forge podcast? Join Sean and his guests as they talk about sex, geekiness, witchcraft, Star Trek, awkward dates, poetry, life, the universe, and everything else. Interviews have included writers, atheists, a rap star from Australia, a reality TV star, and a sex goddess from San Diego. If you have a story to share or just want to listen to one, check out the Soul Forge podcast. The Soul Forge. Let's find out together.
And we're back. Tony, do you know what time it is?
It is time for final thoughts.
I'm so glad you don't do that bit anymore.
I'm just waiting.
Oh.
I am biding my time.
Final thoughts.
Ashley, what are your final thoughts?
Yeah, so this story's super gritty. It was a lot of fun to kind of revisit it. I've not been into it, and I've not seen this one in a very long time. So as I kind of dug back in, it amazed me how gritty and desperate everything was. They actually set up a world that is something that is not that common in especially classic Doctor Who, where there's just a lot of desperation in the world, and you see that, and there's a lot of moving pieces happening in this. You can imagine that there's a lot of we don't really get to see government agencies and things like that, but you imagine that this is kind of, you've got this small group guarding this thing that's been guarded for 90 years, and people don't probably put a lot of credence in that, and then the Daleks show up and everything goes to heck. But even the Daleks seem desperate. The Doctor seems desperate. Lytton doesn't seem desperate. He's just waiting for a paycheck, right? And then you've got Davros, who also seems very desperate. He's got this opportunity and he wants to seize upon it. So it's way grittier than I thought. There's a lot of continuity errors that just weren't really thought through, and we talked about those. But ultimately, I think this story is really fun, and I really enjoy kind of where they go with this story and how they present it. And this is just a different Dalek story than we've ever seen, and really a different kind of type of Doctor Who that you're kind of coming into this. You're going to see some more like this, but right now this just everyone seems so desperate, and they will do anything to survive or anything to die. And in the case of when they're trying to they're like, we've got to protect the world or the universe, and we're going to just self-destruct the ship. So there's just a lot of desperation, and it's something I've never really thought about as I kind of watch these episodes again as I'm older, especially ones I haven't watched in a long time. It's been quite a while since I've seen this one. It's quite good though. I actually really like this one. There is a big death count, big body count, but it's done in a way where everyone feels desperate, right? So it makes a lot of sense. So yeah, I guess those are my final thoughts.
Nice. Tony, what are your final thoughts?
I really liked this serial. I know we talked about some things that maybe were a little wobbly, but like this serial is incredibly entertaining. There was moments where I was just like, it's a feeling I haven't had in a while of just being like glued to the screen, kind of like needing to know what's going to happen next. And we've had serials, I think, with like a high death count. I think you even mentioned it while we were watching it. That like we've had serials that were like this destructive, but we didn't give a shit.
Yeah, we didn't
because we didn't care. The side characters were they knew that they were going to kill them, so they didn't bother developing them. And that's not the case with this one at all. Like everybody feels like a person. Most of those deaths, you really feel them. I mean, granted, there are like a lot of different fractions and a lot of different people, and so one of the things that does happen in this serial a lot is like some people are acting their faces off when they die. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of very dramatic deaths and flinging themselves backwards, but when it comes to like the actual developed side characters, I think most of them are really great. I would say, I can't even remember her name actually, the scientist.
Layered.
There probably could have been like a bit more development there, but there are a lot of moving pieces to this, and so everybody can't be fully fleshed out. But like most of the characters, like you care about them, and like having that scene with the Doctor and Davros, like I don't even know, it's just good to watch. Having the Doctor be desperate isn't something that we see a lot. There's genuinely a moment where you're like, I don't know how this is going to play out, and I don't know how I'm going to feel about how this plays out. That is like a fascinating feeling to have when watching something. I don't know. I just had a fun time with this one.
Layne, what are your final thoughts?
Oh, I don't know what I can say that hasn't already been said, honestly, except for I want them to stop killing Daleks. There's just too much Dalek bloodshed in this. Or goo shed.
I feel like you've said that every episode that you've been on.
Well, it's true. They need to stop killing them. There's so few in this one in the first place.
That's true. Did you like Davros better this time, or?
I did, just because I like the actor better.
He's very good. Yeah, you guys have covered pretty much everything. I like this serial a lot. It's the best Dalek serial we've had in a while. I might even say I like it better than Genesis a little bit. I don't like the way Genesis ends, and I feel like this one ends a lot better. Yeah, this feels sort of reminiscent of Earthshock and Warriors of the Deep in that sort of tragic ending sort of way. But I like, especially in comparison to Warriors of the Deep, this one does what Warriors of the Deep did, but in a way that works. That it works dramatically and emotionally. And I feel like you have like these three characters. You have Mercer and Stiles, and then you have Stein, and then you have Laird, and they each get paired off with one of the main crew. Like Stein gets paired off with the Doctor, Mercer gets paired off with Turlough, and Laird gets paired off with Tegan, and that like helps develop them a little bit. And Mercer and Stiles kind of developed by themselves before they even met Team TARDIS. Like, and just they feel like real people, and that makes when they die that much more tragic, and you actually feel for them in a way that like in Warriors of the Deep, I can't even picture any of the crew people in Warriors of the Deep, and they just die left and right, and I'm like, I don't care. But like actually having some character meat on them bones helps this serial a lot. And I loved everything with the Doctor and Davros specifically together like that. I mean, I think they only have that one scene together But boy, what a scene it is, you know? I feel like it's the Doctor in a position we haven't really seen before. I mean, he gets that scene in Genesis with the Do I Touch the Wires together. But,
this is a lot more direct.
Yeah, it's a lot more direct.
I mean, he is in the room with the guy.
With a gun to his head.
It's a lot. I mean, dramatically speaking, it's different than Genesis of like, you know, it's a lot more removed. It's a lot more, I wouldn't say passive, but it's a lot, this is a lot more immediate.
Right.
Well, and also he's reacting to things that he has done in a past incarnation, in a past story with Davros, right? So there's a lot of like that self-referentiation in this particular story as well of the Doctor kind of like thinking about things that he didn't do before and being like, I've got to fix this. I should have done it before. I didn't. So he's talking about things that he didn't do as Tom Baker's Doctor, right? So being able to put on the Peter Davison, he's been the Doctor for 3 years at this point, but take on like the remorse of something that the past incarnation didn't do, and now get an opportunity to do it as this new incarnation, and you know, reference that, and you know, have an opportunity to do that.
And then that also kind of pays off at the end when he's like, well, I'm just going to start murdering all these Daleks and stuff. And then Tegan leaves as a result of all of this destruction and stuff. And he's like, well, maybe this isn't right either. I need to figure out what's up. He
feels a little bit lost at the end.
Yeah. He's like, maybe I don't know who I am, really. I hope he figures it out. He's got 2 serials left. But yeah, it's such a good serial. I enjoyed it quite a bit. Before we go, is there anything you would like to plug, Ashley?
No, not in particularly. There is not much going on. Typically, I have my Cleveland Geeks Here toy show that I run in September, which would have just happened, but that didn't happen this year, and it's probably not happening next year. We'll see. But the only thing I can say is be on the lookout. I'm working on a role-playing game called The Gun Belt. I don't have a date on that, but that will be going to Kickstarter. You know, thinking it was going to be this year. Now it's probably next year. I hope it will be. We're getting close to the end. The game's pretty much all developed. Now we're commissioning art and doing a little more play testing. But yeah, we should be. I hope that will be coming out in some time.
Nice. Look forward to that. Layne, anything you want to plug?
I'll just plug my Instagram. It's Lexx with 2 X's _Terminate.
Nice. Toni, you want to do your spiel?
Yeah, same thing as always. Please watch The Unseen World. We're See Unseen World on all social medias. You can watch it at, you always have to tell me the URL.
WatchHeartlandTV.com.
That's it. Season 2, I know I keep saying it, but it's coming soon. I think we're going to have 4 episodes done at the end of this month, which means that we're probably going to start playing them next month. We'll see. It's been a weird time of, like, it's harder to work with everybody all over, and it's just a weird COVID-y year. But, yeah, Season 2 should be coming out soon. It's really good. I'm super excited about it. So, watch it. Also, if you would like, follow me on Twitter, @ForwardPower. That's FWDPWR. Pretty funny on it, so...
She's all right.
Thanks.
I'll just say buy Road Trippy on Amazon, the book I co-wrote with Ray Friesen and Chris Cherry, and watch My 2 Clones on minipineapple.com. That's all I got. I've talked about it enough. You know what it's about. Just go check them out.
Just do it.
Just do it. Why haven't you done it yet? Go, go, go. If you like this episode of the podcast, you can check out more on WatchYourRassilon.com. And if you'd like to help us out, you can become a Patreon patron at patreon.com/Watch-A-Thon. Or you can find our Amazon wish list at WatchYourRassilon.com/support. And you can sponsor an episode of the podcast by purchasing a DVD or Blu-ray for us. We'll mention you on the podcast and put your name on our Friends of Rassilon page. Speaking of, special thanks again to Matt Golden for sponsoring this episode.
Hey, thanks, Matt.
Golden!
Check him out at MatthewGolden.net. And I also want to give a special shout out to Vince and EL for providing us with our amazing theme song.
Thank you, Vince.
You can check them out at soundcloud.com/VincentEL or vincentel.bandcamp.com. And tune in next time when we talk about Planet of Fire. I think that's just called a sun.
Yeah, I suppose.
But until next time, keep calm and wrestle on.
Goodbye, and I love you in a platonic, parasocial way.
Bye.
We'll see you soon.
I'm not here as your prisoner, Davros, but your executioner.
This has been a broadcast of the ESO Network. Be part of the crew and help support our shows by donating to our ESO Patreon or by shopping at the TeePublic store, which can all be found at www.esonetwork.com. The ESO Network, your station for all things geek.